up for no reason. Yeah, nigga. Yeah.
You move. I ain't gonna fucking break your head.
Out of my face, it's illegal. No, it's not illegal. No, it's not illegal. No, it's not illegal. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, welcome everybody to a very special Christmas edition of the CopWatch Media Podcast. Notice the Santa hat. It's Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. Christmas came early this year because we just came by a big fire at an NYPD warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, where they either lost evidence on thousands of cases, so hashtag free them all, or they just literally did the most recent act of incompetence and blunder shit that they usually do. So welcome everybody. Welcome to my co-hosts Ash and Marcela.
Hey, I'm Ash Agony. Of course, I'm one of the co-founders of CopWatch Media, I guess, and frequent host here, and frequent shit talker about the police on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm Marcela Onyango. I'm a comedian who also likes to talk shit about the cops. Yeah, that's all you need to know about me. Find me and hear me talk shit about everything, including the government. It's my favorite thing to do, truly, honestly.
Nice. Ash is in a particularly good mood because he just got his evidence burnt up. So
Yes.
He's,
Yeah.
That was good.
All right.
Oh.
So let's start off, guys. Let's start off with talk a little bit about some of the pieces we had recently on CopWatch Media. This December we had a good run of pieces. We'll start off with a piece, a horrible but important piece by a contributor of ours, Rhea Small, who wrote a piece about a woman named Wendy Howard. Marcela,
Yeah, I can talk about it. Yeah, so Wendy Howard is a 53-year-old woman who lives in California, and in 2019, she shot and killed her ex-partner, Kelly Pitts, who had been abusing her, had done terrible things to her, like strangled her, beat her with a baseball bat, and then on top of that had sexually molested her kids. And instead of the state being like, oh my God, we understand, we weren't protecting you, you had to protect yourself, they're like, actually no, we're gonna charge you with first-degree murder, second-degree murder. The DA is really truly the villain in this story because she will not let this go. So what happened is that she was charged, Wendy was charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, found not guilty with those charges. And then when it comes to voluntary manslaughter, this is where I feel like this is all just a plan to keep this woman in this, in this justice system to make sure she goes to prison. So she was manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, also charged with that. But then the judge asked the jury to look at two separate versions of this. So there's the first one, which is crime of passion. And then the other one was self-defense. She was found not guilty when it comes to self-defense, but then the jury was hung. I think it was 7-5 when it came to crime of passion. And so essentially this woman who was protecting her kids is now going to have to go to trial again because the DA is not letting this go. Let me tell you about this DA. Her name is Cynthia Zimmerman. And when I say she's a villain, she really is a villain. Yeah. Because first of all, she claims to care about domestic abuse survivors, Right. She wore was it a purple outfit, this domestic survivor ceremony, while at the same time prosecuting a woman who was defending herself. And when Wendy Howard had brought up the situation of Pitts abusing her two daughters to Zimmerman was like, actually, that's not my problem. So to me, this just feels one of those situations where only white men are allowed to defend themselves. Yeah. And then the only perfect victim is a victim that doesn't fight back. So if you're a woman and you're in a domestic, sorry, I'm a comedian, but there are no jokes here because this is really fucked up. If you're a woman and you're in a position where you're being abused, the only way you can be perfect is if you don't fight back. Right. And if you fight back at all, you are viewed as a villain, especially when it comes to situations where your kids are involved. Because I feel like Zimmerman is just going after Wendy Howard because her thing was why didn't you protect your kids? Why didn't you protect her? Right? So that's the story. pretty messed up, pretty upset about it. If you know who Cynthia Zimmerman is, please don't vote for her again for DA if you're voting, because this is just like an example of how this state does not protect the most vulnerable of us and actually prosecutes them, and we cannot depend on them to help or save victims of like violence and domestic abuse. I just made y'all really somber. I know the story is really sad. They brought me here for jokes. It didn't happen. I'm sorry. We will, maybe jokes will come later.
But no, like with abolitionists, for example, like a lot of arguments you hear against abolition is like, well, what are you going to do about, like, for example, men who abuse women, for example?
Donald Trump?
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's out. They run for office.
People often refer to the police and the state as some kind of solution to, like, kind of like, patriarchal, like, familial violence, domestic violence. And it's anything but that. And we all know the often quoted stat about, cops often are domestic abusers themselves.
And we're gonna get into more shady stuff that cops do in terms of abuse, that we cannot trust them.
I mean, as we've seen time and time again, like, cops aren't the solution to misogynistic violence, patriarchal violence, domestic familial violence.
They are the cause.
They are the cause.
Like, they are the cause of violence.
And the state itself as an institution is a chauvinistic, patriarchal institution, violent institution. So, like,
and we should know, when we talk about cops too, we're including prosecutors in there.
Yeah. Cops.
Zimmer notwithstanding, all of them across the line, they basically continue that arm of what police start off by, they haven't even let this woman's case drop.
April, they're gonna, like, December 2nd is when they were gonna decide whether they were gonna, like the DA could have just dropped the charges because it was a hung jury, but they're like, actually, no, in April, they're going to retry her again. But, like, to me, it does feel like a lot like they're just they're really sticking to her to prove to a point that if you're a woman, you're not allowed to kill a man, even if he harms you. Even though the state is not going to defend you. It's like the state is like, we're bullies and we're empowering other bullies to bully you. You cannot kill him. It's like, it's like he's a deputized bully. Like, cis men, when they're in relationships with women, they're there to maintain it's like this, like, gender hierarchy. And that's why the state is like, you can't hurt your bully.
We had another piece, just moving on from that, we had another piece about a local story in New York City. Mayor Eric Adams, aka the Black Giuliani, came up with a new plan to basically give more resources for cops to be able to, in quote unquote, involuntarily hospitalize, otherwise known as kidnapping, people that they deem unstable or mentally unstable from the subways and the streets. We had one of our new contributors, Candice Pedraza. She wrote a piece a couple of weeks before the announcement about a mental health program that was supposed to not include cops, but that hasn't really gotten off the ground. Cops continue to be kind of the primary response to mental health in the city while we're having crisis. And then Adams put out this new plan a couple of weeks ago, which people are organizing against and holding rallies and filing lawsuits and all that stuff. But Candace also followed up with another piece about this health plan. I mean, you can't even call it a health plan.
It's not a health plan.
It's a
kidnapping
threat. It's a threat.
I feel like, where does Eric Adams get his policy ideas from? Like, I feel like he just gets it from a black box of evil. He's like, let me find, like, there's a big
cop
box.
movies and TV shows.
Because this stuff, it sounds like he's just making it up. Because why, how do you think of this?
Yeah.
He's like, how can I be the meanest cruel person?
It comes from the cop mindset of basically the cops are the solution to everything. Basically, like, cops are bureaucrats with guns, so they're always trying to find ways to kind of expand their jurisdictions, expand their resources. Like, let's let cops handle mental illness.
Yeah,
in the subway, on the street, in the parks,
everywhere. The teachers are gonna be cops. I mean, they kind of are cops a little bit. The nurses are gonna be cops. You're gonna turn everybody into a cop.
You know what I fucking hate about this Adams thing is that he's been talking about mental health and homelessness and all this stuff, and he always says that it's inhumane to allow it to continue. So he counters the criticisms of his plan being inhumane by saying, well, if we don't do anything, that's actually inhumane. And that is
it's like this cycle. It's like a loop of, like, he's like a trickster. Also, like, one thing that people need to know about Eric Adams is that he's a landlord. He's a landlord, and he's currently being fined $300 for allowing rats
it got dismissed.
to be.
No, it got dismissed. It got dismissed.
Oh yeah, because he's
the
mayor.
mayor.
Yeah, I really was hoping that he would be stuck having to deal with this case, because I feel like whenever Eric Adams is not working, that's the best thing that could happen to the people of New York City, like, truly, specifically homeless people. But I want to just bring up that he's a landlord.
He's a landlord.
Because we're trying to figure out why is Eric Adams
it all connects.
Supportive of landlords. He's not just
and
a
hates
cop.
the homeless.
Yeah, it's like because he wants people, like, you know what I mean?
It's a really fucking bad mix. When you're a cop, it's already like
And then you're
shaping
a
your mind in
landlord?
one way, and then when you're like landlord and you're in line with real estate, it's like
a double threat of evil. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You're like, it's like I could sing and dance, and I guess maybe he could be a triple
He
threat.
protects the property class, and it's in his self-interest, literally in his
He
self-interest.
is the property class. Also,
Protects the
how
property
messed up is
class,
it that
yeah.
a landlord is the mayor?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yep. But no, Ash. I also wanted to get into your piece. You wrote a piece about the continued pink washing efforts of the NYPD.
Yeah. So yeah, as we all know, on November 19th, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at a place called Club Q, which was an LGBTQ club, where they were doing events for Trans Day of Remembrance, I believe. Transphobe walked into the place and shot up the place and killed some people. And then at first tried to claim that they were non-binary. He was non-binary.
Oh, yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
that's been retracted now. It was always bullshit. It was just a troll.
as if that like okay, so just because you're non-binary means you can go kill other non-binary people. It doesn't check out. Yeah.
So yeah, he killed 5 people and injured at least 18 people. So here in New York, in response to that tragedy, Eric Adams and the commissioner of the NYPD, Keechant Sewell, did their social media statements saying that they were standing in solidarity with queer and trans people. So in my article, I just did really a short recapitulation of the long history of NYPD violence against queer and trans people, and the instances where they did not protect queer and trans people when it was very easy for them to do so.
Or actually attack them, i.e. Stonewall. Like, I mean, yeah.
So yeah, started at in the piece I started Stonewall, which the NYPD only apologized for in the last few years. After being, asked to apologize, Bill Bratton said no, former commissioner.
Wait, he said no?
He said no. He said he
no?
didn't. He said it wasn't necessary. James O'Neill, who was the protege of Bill Bratton, was at the first time he was asked, he said no, and then I think the next year after that, that was in 2017. Then in 2019, he finally apologized for the raids on the Stonewall Inn that led to the Stonewall riots. So it took NYPD decades just to apologize for the Stonewall raids that led to the riots.
No, I was gonna say, and for the NYPD to apologize,
Yeah.
there had to have been a massive fucking fuck up, a massive injustice for years that they felt compelled to have to apologize.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said no in 2017, you're saying no to apologizing to crimes that we know are crimes. Well,
Yeah.
it's because if you're gonna keep doing crimes, why apologize for doing crimes?
Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want to have a standard of actually taking accountability for.
Yeah,
It, that's the
because
opposite
if you
of what
apologize
they
for
do.
this, you're gonna have to apologize for all the stuff that you do, which we all know is not to serve and protect. It's the opposite.
Yeah, and I just talked about a whole bunch of cases like Isla Nettles in 2013. She was a black trans woman. She was literally killed right across the street from an NYPD precinct, from Police Service Area 6 Station House. I talk about Kowalski Treywick, who was killed by the NYPD, black, queer, mentally ill man in his own apartment. His family's still searching for justice when it comes to that. I talk about a trans woman who was arrested with pink handcuffs because the cops wanted to be funny about it. So they arrested her. She was walking through a Bronx park after hours. So they ran up on her. They arrested her with pink handcuffs, put her in a cell. They mocked her.
They were fucking cute.
And then charged her with impersonation because she was trans.
Oh, so they were like came out transphobic hard.
Straight up transphobic shit. Yeah,
they were like, we are gonna scream this out for everybody to hear that we're garbage.
She later got a $30,000 settlement for that because they put her through a
That's
night
it?
of horror. Yeah, I mean that's it. But
That's
like
it?
when they give you that much money, though, it means they
I
fucked
mean,
up.
I feel like $30,000. She's still gonna have to work. She shouldn't have to work after what they did to her. Like that's awful.
And I talked about obviously the multiple times at Pride, the multiple years at Pride when cops attacked Pride celebrators, as well as protesters at Pride. And the cops, the SRG, the Strategic Response Group, the NYPD Strategic Response Group, in their manuals and their training include, as an example, when they arrested No Justice, No Pride protesters at Pride Parade one time. Protesters who were protesting against corporations and cops being involved in Pride.
Right.
So like they even use them.
So they arrested the people who are protesting.
They use the arrest and the repression of queer people and trans people as an example by which to train other cops. So like the hatred of queer and trans people
deep.
is like is very much in the open. For like Kashan Su would come out and be like, oh, the NYPD stands in solidarity with queer and trans people. Like,
didn't a few years ago they had to have a bill to counter this walking while trans? They call it like the walking while trans.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is like systemic. This was like the cops. If you were trans, you could be like stopped because they just assumed you were
a sex worker.
You were a
Yeah.
sex worker.
And if you had a condom on you, whatever.
Yeah, well, you were not allowed to have a condom on you at all. Like, you were
I mean,
arrested.
this is wild. I mean, that's like systemic like profiling of trans people, and then you say we stand in solidarity with you.
I mean, it is very disrespectful, but like the NYPD, it just likes to. I don't know. Sorry, I guess the words that I'm trying to say is that without. I know this is public, so I cannot say everything that I want to say. But the NYPD's veil over their violence is consistent because they have to have it on constantly. Because if you live in New York City, you know they're terrible. If you've interacted with the NYPD, you know they're terrible. That's why they have to keep up the...
And only just recently there was a transphobic hate rally outside of City Hall, and people came to counter protest trans people, and the cops, very violently repressed.
Right.
There was a lot of cops from many different units. They had the freaking counterterrorism, the SRG, crowd management unit, all these types of different units of cops come and repress trans people and their comrades who are counter-protesting a transphobic hate rally outside of City Hall.
And somebody literally came from London. It was actually a London turf.
It was a turf from London,
they were protecting somebody who has a hate tour. And like they were protecting her. And then they arrested
they arrested like, I don't forgot how many, but like a good amount of people who were counter-protesting. So like, I mean...
The only thing standing between you and your rights are the cops.
Yeah. Just a straight-up enemy of queer and trans people, fronting like an ally.
Yep.
And only recently fronting like an ally too.
and they were forced to do it multiple times because
after
they
being
said
dragged,
no.
After being dragged to the right side of history.
Yeah.
The cops always are on the wrong side of history, obviously. But like after being dragged to the right side of history after decades and decades, now they're gonna try to front like they're allies of queer and trans people while they're still
not being allies
of queer and trans people, and will never be.
No, because they're cops. They can be.
Yes.
And we just want to wrap up with two other pieces from this month. One was a story I wrote about Chris Howard, a young man from the Bronx who was basically wrapped into a RICO case, a gang conspiracy case, largely off a Facebook post. Basically, he got into a fight. He got sucker punched when he was like 14, 15 years old, when he was a teenager. And then the person who punched him apparently got shot non-fatally like 3 years after that. And because of Facebook posts that he had made 3 years prior, the cops tried to say he was responsible for the shooting, even though they had no gun, no video, no physical evidence, no fingerprints, DNA, shell casings, anything. And then they used that also to tie him in, not just for the shooting, but also tie him into a gang case, saying the shooting was in the furtherance of a gang because he happened to frequent the Millbrook houses in the South Bronx. So this is kind of a continuation. I did a story a few months ago about another young man from northern part of the Bronx, similar case, no evidence, just tying people up based off who they know, saying they're part of a gang. So this is something that's been going on in the Bronx, throughout the city for a while, but very heavy in the Bronx. And in particular, this is a federal indictment. So this isn't just like the local prosecutor. This is the U.S. government's prosecution coming after you with laws that were designed to take down the mafia. So the strongest laws, the strongest tools that prosecutors have being thrown at people who were really young, live in public housing, and post stuff on Facebook that cops are interpreting to be like, confessions of crimes, which is, anyone who wants to think that through to its logical conclusion is ridiculous. And then another story we just had recently, just published actually this morning, from an organizer with the Stop Shot Spotter campaign. Shot Spotter is a gun detection system that has been criticized heavily by organizers, activists, legal centers who are saying that it's bullshit, that it actually just brings more cops into the neighborhoods that are already hyper policed as it is, because they detect things like garbage cans, like garbage men. Fireworks is a big one.
Fireworks.
Trash cans being banged when garbage men are picking up trash cans. They're all things that are setting off these gun detection systems, and because they're all kind of in the hyper policed communities of color anyway, it's just drawing cops. One report I think said that it it led to over 40,000 dead-end deployments for police in Chicago in the span of 21 months. So 40,000 times cops responded to it, and there was nothing there.
Yeah, it
Is
happens
there
very
any way we
often.
can take these and put them in the suburbs so the cops can just keep
Yeah,
going
exactly.
over there and like leave everybody alone?
I mean, it'd be easier. The cops live in the suburbs, so they
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
just like
Right
yeah,
there.
just
Yeah.
hang out in your neighborhood, stay over there. I mean, to me, it's almost as if, based on these two stories, it's almost as if the United States government plan is to put black youth in prisons that they've built, and they've created a system to do that. It's almost as if that's what happened.
No, yeah,
It's
both
almost
those
as
stories.
if it almost feels like that's the plan.
Yeah, both those stories like really
That is
clearly
right.
illustrate basically like the way black and brown communities are like it's a racist police state basically. In a
I
lot
mean,
of them.
it's like it's so it's systemic to the point that cops are trying to like go to Facebook to arrest kids. Like you're
Yeah.
spending. It's like when like what was that? Like the NYPD like took a break and then crime went down. What was that?
Yeah, that
Somebody-
was
what
the
was that?
NYPD slowed down
2014,
and the end of
yeah.
2014, early 2015.
Because
yeah.
they create crime.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's like literally what they do. Like they find crime in situations that it didn't happen and say that it did just because it's like this whole surplus labor. We're gonna like imprison and enslave people.
And there have been cases where like there will be a false positive that rings up on the shot spotter. You know, cops say, "Oh, there might have been a shot here." They show up and then they find somebody. They find out it's nothing. Then they find somebody to crack down on for some other
So they
random
literally
thing.
create crime.
And then randomly like there have been people been shot in those instances by cops as well.
Oh, that's
too.
right. That's right.
So like
So they like literally create.
they're,
the
like,
appearance
creating
of
a
crime
problem,
so
yeah.
that they can go. It's
And
like
then-
what capitalism is. It creates problems and then solves it in a bad way, and
Yeah.
it's like that's what cops do. And then it keeps them in the cycle of like, look, we need you to clean up our mess. Meanwhile, like they're the ones like spilling the mess. They're like,
Yeah.
and they're like, somebody needs to mop this up, and they're doing it.
and the CEO of Shot Spotter is a real piece of shit as well too. Like freaking.
Wait, really? You mean a guy who came up with an idea to detect gunshots in black neighborhoods is a bad guy? I would have not thought.
To add insult to it, this guy, the CEO of ShotSpotter, for a very long time on Twitter had Martin Luther King as his Twitter profile pic. And try to go around acting like he was doing progressive changes by like
That's what they always
In-
do.
They do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
They be like Starbucks is a progressive
He acted like-
company, like things
literally
like that.
literally
yeah.
a man helping construct the surveillance state
is like a
with-
pro MLK.
yeah with faulty technology as well too. There's been like plenty of like surveys and studies showing that there's a lot of false positives when it comes to shot spotters.
It's
acoustic
mostly
system, yeah.
false positives.
Yeah.
I saw something.
They've
that
had to
said,
they've manipulated
They
the
try to
data
manipulate the
as
data.
well.
As if
Straight
they,
up
it's
manipulate.
almost as if they put it there as
Yeah.
an excuse to just keep harassing
Yeah,
people.
they
It's almost as
they've
if
been
they did
caught
that.
manipulating the data along in collaboration with police.
Yeah.
So like it's just faulty, just literally creating excuses to crack down on black and brown people, basically.
Yeah. All right, let's.
And it, with the facade of technology and science too.
But that's
like,
the thing.
you
The
know?
technology in a sense, like, it can't lie. It's
Yeah.
an algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, an algorithm was created by a white person. We
Yeah.
know it's lying.
So like
Yep.
I mean, no offense to our camera person. Hashtag not all white people. Actually, maybe I don't know. Collectively, maybe we can talk about that later. You can cut it. It's fine. I don't want to get y'all in trouble with my big ass
You're
mouth.
good. All right. In the news, in the streets, a lot of stuff happening at the
Yeah.
end of 2022. Guys, you guys want to give a shot? Give us at least some of the most important shit.
So okay, first we recently there was a NYPD. We're talking about NYPD cracking down on people, cracking down on abortion clinic defenders. Recently, in December 3rd, 7 people got arrested. So every month, there's this group of religious fanatics in downtown Manhattan who go and have a mass in the morning on the first Saturday of every month, I believe. And then after their mass, they go and harass people at a local Planned Parenthood.
Fun times after church.
And there are a group of good people with good conscience who go and try to make it as difficult as possible for these religious fanatics to get to the Planned Parenthood.
This is downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, this
most
is
people would
Manhattan,
probably
yeah.
think this is happening like.
No.
in-
This is happening in
Middle
New
of
York
Manhattan.
City.
This is not
And
in the
the
Bible
cops-
Belt or nothing like that.
No.
Yeah, it's not the Bible Belt.
It's where you can get $1 pizza. That's where this is happening at.
And so in recent months, the NYPD has been arresting a whole lot of these clinic defenders, including me in November.
I know. I was gonna say.
So,
after
yeah.
you gave me chalk, you like
So, yeah.
disappeared.
So we're gonna read the statement from NYC for Abortion, the group who basically sets up the clinic defenses every month. So
Yeah.
let Marcela do that.
I'll go ahead and I'll read it. On December 3rd, 2022, the NYPD arrested 7 clinic defenders, continuing a pattern of heightened aggression against abortion right activists that began with the arrest of 2 New York for Abortion Right members during an August 2021 clinic defense. In August 2022, the NYPD's Violent Strategic Response Group, SRG, arrested 6 clinic defenders. In November 2020, oh my God, in November 2022, they arrested 2 more.
Including me.
After Ash gave me chalk, they came and got him. The NYPD and the SRG specifically regularly shove and elbow, they've done this to me also, and tackle clinic defenders. I've seen it happen, and obstruct press and legal observers from documenting their brutality. Cop Mayor Eric Adams, also landlord, made a big show of strengthening access to abortion in New York when roll fell, stating that safe legal abortion care is a cornerstone of public health in our city. Yet his administration undermines its purported support for abortion by financing a bloated police budget used to deploy militarized counterterrorism forces against abortion activists and provide dedicated protection to clinic invaders and harassers affiliated with the Archdiocese of New York. By design, police act to limit our autonomy, not ensure our rights. This is why they're not dispatched to enforce the FACE Act or ensure that patients and workers can enter clinics safely. Instead, cops act as an armed escort for anti-abortion far-right, continuing to take direction from Witness for Life leaders Fidelis Mosinski. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
We don't care. He's an ass.
Fuck him.
Despite the latter having an active restraining order that prohibits him from being within 500 feet of any reproductive health facility. Mm-hmm. The NYPD has determined... Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop this statement real quick. So this man, he's escorted by over, I don't know, last time I was there, it was at least 6 cops escorting him to harass people. And he has a restraining order?
Yeah.
Did they not know this? Is this how bad they are at their jobs? Anyway, let me continue. The NYPD has determined that an anti-abortion zealot with a history of invading clinics who recently padlocked a Long Island Planned Parenthood has more of a right to harass patients than patients do to seek care with safety and dignity. As NYC increasingly becomes a destination for people impacted by abortion bans sweeping the country, it's more important than ever for us to confront fascism at our clinics and in our streets, cops and antis alike. It is up to us to defend the abortion access and keep each other safe. We won't stop until the vicinity of our clinics are free of cops and antis. We call the city council to fully disband the NYPD Strategic Response Group, SRG, and keep the NYPD away from our clinics. Signed, NYC for Abortion Rights and Crown Heights Care Collective.
Yeah. So, like I said, right before, the day I was arrested, very recently before that, Fidelis Mosinski, who's this Catholic friar who leads these crazy religious fanatics to go harass people.
And then he has a little assistant.
Yeah.
Who's a fake clinic escort. She pretends to be a clinic escort, and she has like a little pink. It's like evil. Mm-hmm.
And he had been locked up for about 3 months, but prior to that, for invading another clinic, I think in Westchester or something like that. And then the minute he gets out, but he coordinates with the cops, with the NYPD, gets personal protection from the cops, and the full, to be fully transparent with our viewers, me and Marcela be at the clinic defenses.
We are. Okay,
be out there.
And the last time I was there talking about cop, he said, I would do this for you too. I was like, no, sir, I know you wouldn't do this for me because during the George Floyd riots, y'all threw tear gas at us. So I know for a fact whose side you stand for. On. Like deputizing, this Fidelis is, yuck.
So it just goes to show you that the cops always are on the wrong side of almost every conflict. Basically,
the whole idea that abortion is legal in New York doesn't really matter if the cops are on the side of the people who view it as it should be illegal. You're essentially deputizing citizens to harass people at a Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
boo cops.
Cops literally giving personal protection to people harassing people at a Planned Parenthood.
People who just should go home after church.
Yeah. So next story, I guess. You want me to do it?
I can do the next story.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay.
Let me see. Sorry. Wait, actually, no, do it because now I don't have the run of show in my hand. Actually, I do. Oh yeah. Ooh yeah. Okay. So a Virginia cop, who catfished a 15-year-old, and he killed her grandparents.
And her
mom. And then set the house on fire. Also, this Virginia cop drove all the way from Virginia to California because he asked this girl to send him nudes, and she stopped talking to him. And then got into a shootout, got murdered. And then his friends
got into a shootout with the cops.
Yeah, with the other cops. Yeah. Got murdered. And then while this was happening, his friends in Virginia, who are also cops, went to his house. People say they left with a black bag and then left with a car. And and we know what's in the black. We don't know what's in the black bag.
And also, just to clarify, they went to the co-worker's house, before the search warrant was supposed to be happening.
Exactly.
This was not the official search.
Oh
for
no,
the
yeah,
police.
sorry, yeah, this was not the official. This was a buddy. This was a buddy stop.
This is cop's buddies who he works with going to his house and trying to.
Like they're trying to cover. They were trying to cover his ass, right?
Yeah,
like so, it's like they commit crimes. Mm-hmm. They knew their friend went over to California, and they're like, actually, let's cover up for him. Mm-hmm. So these are the people who were saying are gonna defend and protect us. And the other thing that this
was on video, by the way, too.
Yeah.
This was
it was
caught
like
on video.
People
they
saw them
on
walking
video,
out. The what goes through your mind when you do that? Is what I want to know. What goes through your mind when you see that your friend went over and murdered a child's parents? What goes through your mind to think, actually, he's not the villain in this story. Let's make sure we clean this up.
Yeah, no, and just to clarify, like, again, this cop traveled from Virginia to California, went to this girl's house, killed her mom and her grandparents, and then set the house on fire. Then drove off with the girl. And
then was in the Mojave Desert. There was drove off into the desert.
His car was later stopped in San Bernardino County.
Okay.
Cops initially said that he was killed in a shootout with police.
But he wasn't.
But then later announced that he had shot himself with his service weapon.
Because he found out that
the gun that he uses on the job.
Because they wanted to seem like they were heroes. Because they wanted like paint it like, we caught him, we did it, go us. And then it's like, then they have to. And then I guess that cop did get a conscience and was finally like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be around.
And also to clarify, his two cop buddies who went to his house and tried to cover stuff up did so on the same day of the killings. They got there on November 25th, the day of the killings.
So they knew.
The same exact day.
So they knew.
This is what you call the thin blue line. So, this is what it is. Like, thin blue line protects itself and goes back, covers up for people who kill other people.
It's like, thin blue line is what keeps us unsafe.
Yeah.
And the other thing, also, he hasn't even worked with these people for that long. He just recently started.
Yeah.
So they're defending this guy. It's not like they've been buddies for like years. It's not been like decades.
I mean, they may have been buddies and then they became cops at different times.
Yeah, but like, wild. That story was so wild because I just couldn't.
His name is Austin Lee Edwards, by the way.
Yeah, he's dead now.
Get those names out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so yeah, I'll do the next one. So NBC News did a little study. I'll quote from the NBC News report. Sexual harassment and gender discrimination remain rife in some of the country's largest police departments, and many of those accused of them don't face significant punishment, according to an NBC News review of more than 60 lawsuits that were settled or won at trial, interviews with more than 15 female officers, and an analysis of internal police documents. The lawsuit stems from complaints against the sheriff's office in LA County, and police departments in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and Chicago, where taxpayer-funded payouts over the past 5 years totaled more than $40 million in officer-on-officer abuse cases. And so in the article, they talk about
$40 million.
They talk in the NBC News report. They talked about a variety of cases in cities across the country of cops sexually harassing other cops. The one here in New York City that, since we'll focus on that, is regards a cop named Salvatore Marchese.
Oh yeah, that guy. Ooh, winner.
He pressured Officer Anajes Alvarez to perform oral sex on him 2 times, and then punished her when she refused. The city later had to settle a $100,000 lawsuit, but Marchese is now commanding officer of the station house in Upper Manhattan.
It's almost as if you're really shitty, you get promotions. Also, I do want to quote this. This is from the article. Of the 87 NYPD officers accused in court papers of abusing female officers, 27 have since moved up in rank. So I guess if you harass female officers, you get promotions. And that's like the NYPD. That's how they roll.
And yeah, the NBC News report lays out that that's not just in New York. This happens. This happens in cities.
We're focusing on New York because we live here.
But of the 20 LA police officers accused in the court cases, 1 has since been promoted, 6 stayed at the same rank, and only a total of 13 have left the department. But it's unclear whether any were fired over the allegations. In Philadelphia, is the same thing.
Oh, it's clear they weren't fired.
I mean, it's just like these are the same people who like you're expecting to like protect victims of like domestic abuse. They're the ones who are doing it. Like the cops are doing it.
I gotta say,
and it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's costing.
Anytime that I've ever been in a precinct, just looking around, just my instinct tells me that this is like a fucking animal house. Like all types of shit goes on there. Just watching how people conduct themselves, I'm not surprised by this shit. Because every time I've been in a precinct and I just observe cops, how they are with each other, I know this is just like a bunch of kids, a bunch of children running around doing all types of fucked up shit. So it's no surprise that they're like this with each other, because what they're doing to the people on the outside is so fucking horrendous. Why would it be any different on the inside that they're harassing each other and fucking doing all types of fucking wild shit?
Of course not. It's like you're going to be a bully outside and inside. But then if you also think about it, cops are here to maintain also a gender hierarchy. And just because they're female police officers, they're still going to try to maintain that hierarchy in like their ranks. And then it's just, go ahead. Please.
Yeah. In the article, in the report, it says, the most comprehensive study thus far, updated in June, included a survey of 1,135 departments across the country. Out of the nearly 3,000 responses that were collected, 70% of female officers said they had experienced such things as being shown porn at work or being asked to perform sexual favors. 8% reported that another officer has sexually assaulted them. So this is like 70% of women are being
but
these
we
female
say this,
cops.
but people say this all the time. Cops are the domestic abusers,
Yeah.
which is why, like, includes, as you said, includes prosecutors. Which is why when a woman kills her ex-partner who was abusing her and her family, they view her as the villain because they are on the other side. They are Kelly. They are like the person who's doing the harm. That's why to them, like Howard, this woman, Wendy Howard is the villain and not the victim. You know what I mean? And it's like this, we live like in this upside down world.
And then even the female cops who get like some kind of consequences for the people harassing them, afterwards the female officers are usually harassed by the rest of the department
for like trying to like say anything. Somebody threw a rat, somebody threw a mouse trap in like in a place where female officers were meeting to say that they're rats, like to say that they're rats. Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, once again, this cops and the state in general are
not good for women.
They can't even protect agents of the state who happen to
work
be
for
women,
them.
who are not men. So like,
You can be a cop, but you're still a woman. All right, do you want me to do the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so this is this one's a doozy. Mike Fanon. Is that how you say his name?
I think Mike Fanon.
But Mike Fanon. Mike Fanon. Yeah. So Mike Fanon, who was one of the cops who showed up on January 6th.
One of the cops who were protecting the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Because there were cops on both sides.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I have to specify. This was the cop who was not on the side.
Yeah,
he was not with the Charmin with the horns. He was on the other side with the uniform. Yeah. He got the gold medal. He was at the congressional gold medal ceremony, and his fellow cops, he says they called me a piece of shit and mockingly called me a great fucking hero while clapping because because they were mad that he was trying to prevent other cops from taking over, the cops on the other side who were not wearing their uniforms. I guess this is just like to show you the fact that like even when it comes, if cops view the state to be a tool of giving people rights or being nice, and they're like, fuck the state. And if a cop shows any type of like protecting like people who other cops don't think should be protected, which happen to be everybody who we've talked about today, women, black people, whatever, which was that January 6th rebellion was. Rebellion, whatever. What do we call it? Coup attempt. What a very stupid coup attempt. The January 6th coup attempt was pretty much just people saying we don't want people to have rights. And Fanon. I'm sorry, Fanon. There's a Fanon who's actually really cool and y'all should read him. But Fanon. But this Fanon, not as cool. Is he also a Trump supporter?
Yes, he's also a Trump supporter as well.
I'm sorry,
yes.
I'm going everywhere with this story. But so catch me together, Ash. I'm gonna pass this on to you. See if you can summarize it.
So basically there was a ceremony in Congress. They were giving the cops who were protecting the Capitol on January 6th.
Not the ones who were trying to take over.
They were giving them a congressional gold medal. And so like of course Mike Fanon, who's become beloved by liberals for speaking out against the coup attempt, said that, quote, this is from NBC News' Ryan J. Riley. He reported. He said, Fanon tells me, quote, they called me a piece of shit and mockingly called me a great fucking hero while clapping, he said. Fanon says they call him a disgrace, said he was not a cop anymore, and said he didn't belong at the ceremony. He said he has been ostracized for being outspoken about the Capitol riot and those who played down the violence that day. Another thing that happened that day as well is the cop who died the day after the coup attempt, Brian Sicknick.
His family, yeah.
His family refused to shake hands with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who were essentially the leaders of the Republican Party.
And they said it wasn't about politics. They were like, it was just about like the fact that these people don't have any like dignity or like, you know?
Yeah, they basically they don't like the fact that the GOP leaders have been playing down what happened during the coup attempt, and but also Brian Sicknick, let me remind you, was a Trump supporter as well. So both these cops.
Well, it's funny that we know cops would be Trump supporters. That's why most of them are on the other side, and there were few of them who are on this side.
So yeah, there were Trump supporting cops on both sides on January 6th.
And now the ones who are on the other side are mad at the ones who are, you know, preventing them from doing what they wanted to do.
And it's sick seeing liberals like, you know, gush over these Trump supporting cops.
Because you know, liberals
You know.
at the end of, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna go into the liberal.
And it's funny seeing this cop, Fanon, surprised that his fellow fascist cops are going to be mad that he didn't support the fascist coup. And what,
he was a Trump supporter.
He's a Trump supporter.
He's talked to other cops. He knows how he probably knew that they were planning to go there anyway. And he was like, I'm going to try to stop y'all. And they were like, how dare you?
So yeah, fucked cops on both sides of that day, by the way.
On both sides.
Very horrible people on both sides.
There are very horrible people on both sides. So, yeah. Okay.
All right. I guess you want me to do the next one?
Do the next one because my brain's not working anymore. I don't know why. Yeah.
So there's a San Antonio police officer named Matthew Luckhurst. And in 2016, while he was a bike patrol officer, he gave a homeless man a sandwich. 2 pieces of bread with dog shit in the center of it. He left it and he tried to make the homeless person eat it.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just laughing because how awful of a human are you?
Yeah.
I laugh when things
like,
are really bad because I would just
person.
like cry. I would cry if I
literally
didn't laugh. It was so evil.
And then a month later after that, after a female officer requested that the woman's bathroom be kept clean, Luckhurst and another cop responded by defecating in the toilet without flushing, then spreading, quote, a brown substance with the consistency of tapioca on the seat. The department fired Luckhurst several months after the sandwich incident, but he was reinstated in 2019 after an arbitrator concluded the department had missed a 180-day legal window to discipline him.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you fed somebody shit. We should have like fit it into this 180-day.
So he appealed again. Luckhurst appealed again when he was refired for the second feces-related incident. And in June 2020, an arbitrator agreed with the police department that second firing was justified.
Is he still fired?
But also, even though he was fired from the San Antonio Police Department, state records showed that the Floresville Police Department, 30 miles outside of San Antonio, hired Luckhurst as a reserve officer 5 months after his final firing. And although reserve officers hold the same legal authority as any other law enforcement officer, different departments use them differently, so it's unclear what role Luckhurst is playing in Floresville.
Well, let's hope he's not the cook.
I know, nasty. Truly a shitty cop. Really a shitty cop.
So like, just like a cop being horrible to the most vulnerable amongst us, and again, a cop being shitty to female officers.
It's
too.
almost as if cops hate.
Yeah,
it's almost as the whole show has a theme about cops.
And it just goes to show you, like, you know, a cop literally did a horrible thing to this homeless person. Didn't get fired for it.
I want to talk about the 180.
On a technicality, yeah.
I want to talk about the 180
technicality.
thing. So what you're supposed to do is like wait, like, okay, you did something really bad at your job. Who else has a job like that? Where you do something bad and they're like, actually, we can't fire you. We have to wait 180 days. And
I think it has to happen within the.
It has to happen within the 180 days.
Or else it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. If you don't do it, you can't be disciplined for it or whatever. Literally, this man is like freaking abusing the most vulnerable amongst us, like
but that's what his job is.
A person with no money and no power.
But that's what his job is.
Literally, like giving them a shit sandwich, like something that you say hyperbolically.
Yeah, like a joke, like, a shit sandwich. But he was giving this person an actual shit.
It literally did this to the person.
But I will say this: it's like that's just like what we forget that's what cops are here to do.
And
like they are
couldn't get fired. He tried to get fired. Basically, tried to get fired.
But that's his job. Cops are here to oppress.
And then only when he fucked with other cops
did they
finally fire him.
And even then he's still not fired because he might have another job somewhere else.
Since he was fucking with female cops, then it was all right. So he got hired at another police.
Yeah, because why does it matter?
Fuck the police.
Fuck the popos. Fuck the shitty cops.
So all right, next story is so Peru, it's going down in Peru right now. So basically, the president, now the former president Pedro Castillo, who had won, I think, election last year. Basically, he was facing a third impeachment ever since he got elected president. The mostly right-wing Congress, who were from the party of the former dictator, right-wing dictator, Alberto Fujimori, have been trying to oust Castillo ever since he won election last year because he is the left-wing candidate who won. This was kind of, I think, their third attempt to try to impeach him usually on bullshit charges, on like corruption charges that like were really vague, whatever.
And they're all corrupt too.
Yeah. And but on the night before the impeachment, Castillo tried to dissolve the Congress and basically try to have a constituent assembly instead, because ever since he became president, the right-wing forces have been obstructing him from doing anything that helps people.
Yeah, because he has a lot of indigenous support as well. Like,
and the worst thing is he's been trying to appease the right-wing ever since he got into office, and it hasn't worked. Obviously, they're still trying to like oust him or whatever. So in response to Castillo trying to dissolve the Congress, Congress basically voted to arrest him, and he got arrested basically. So that sparked protests. Obviously, left-wing Castillo supporting protesters hit the streets. And recently, on December 10th, in Andahuaylas, Peru, cops were really cracking down really hard on people. And the protesters, in response to their comrades being arrested, took two cops hostage and organized a hostage exchange with the police. And there's video of this happening. And this was reported by the Peru Ombudsman's office. They said that two police officers were held for hours by protesters, but were later released. But also, the cops still were killing protesters in the street. Two teens were killed in Peru on December 11th during protests, and more people were, injured in Lima and recently in protests. In Castillo's place, his vice president Dina Boluarte was sworn in last week. She's had a history of trying to appease the right wingers in Congress, whatever. But yeah, a nice story of a win for once.
Yay!
Shows that we can have nice things.
We can have nice things
if we have solidarity.
And if we don't view the state if we view the state only as a tool of oppression, can we win? Because then we treat them like that.
It was just really inspiring to see this video of like these protesters in Peru, like
it's beautiful,
being able to free their friends by taking action and
that's praxis
and doing to the cops what they do to us all the goddamn time. So like
but nicer, because they only kept them for a couple of hours and did release them. That's true. A lot nicer, actually. They were very kind to these cops.
So solidarity to the comrades out in Peru.
Solidarity.
And fuck the fascist forces in Peru who are trying to take over.
And ACAB everywhere all the time.
Fuck the Fujimori supporters out there. Fuck them. So yeah.
Nice. All right, we're going to switch gears and we're going to actually get into my favorite segment, Propaganda Watch, where we look at and dissect what the media is doing to help the police keep a stranglehold over not only the airwaves and the newspapers, but also our communities. So we want to start off with kind of like some low-level propaganda, some very basic one that actually came just in time for the holidays, which is kind of predictable actually. A story from a local Bronx News 12 telling its viewers that be really happy because you get to do your holiday shopping and the NYPD is stepping up its patrols to make sure that you're spending your money. So the piece that came out last week was literally just about the cops stepping up patrols in shopping districts and shopping areas to keep holiday shoppers safe. So one, you've got the propaganda of why have a story about police just doing what they,
what they're supposed to do, doing, right? Yeah, it's like a headline.
There's no news cameras when like a regular person shows up for their job.
My desk, no one's telling me, hey, good job, Marcela, on that email you sent. Yeah.
Cops being at work is like newsworthy. And then the second propaganda element to it is like, there's actually nothing that they've done here. They're just keeping shoppers safe by being somewhere.
They're just saying they're not even doing it.
And it promotes the idea implicitly that whenever the cops are there, it means safety. So whatever you're doing, whether you're shopping, whether you're taking a shit, just having a cop there makes everyone safer, which is not true.
So if cops make people so safe and people, why aren't they in the suburbs just hang out with white people all the time?
Exactly.
I guess they live there.
They
I mean,
live
that's-
there,
Well,
yeah.
but I'm saying, but they should just stay there. Why don't they just hang out with them? Like, why aren't they trying to keep their neighborhood safe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so this is kind of like low-level propaganda. The usual shit.
They don't protect shoppers if you're shopping on Canal Street and you want to buy something.
On
Police say they seized $10 million worth of fake goods. This man telling us he's one of the vendors.
Police over here, they robbing us all the time. And they give us a record also. They take us to jail.
Because they'll arrest the guy you're buying a bag from.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're actually harassing the people who were trying to help you shop.
So they ain't trying to help you shop.
They're
but
harassing.
yeah.
What do you call? They actually do harass sales associates on Flatbush Ave.
They're only protecting certain levels of shoppers.
Yeah.
That's
And also, like, if they obviously don't protect people when they're going for like medical care, like an abortion.
Yeah, that
but they
too,
want
yeah.
you to shop. They want you to spend your money.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's a
almost
perfect-
as if their whole purpose is to keep rich people rich.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of the first, I guess, basic low-hanging fruit of propaganda that we kind of saw from this month, just at the local level here in the city. Zooming out to the national level, we've talked about in the past these cop shows, right? That proliferate across all the network television shows. There's one that's been, I don't know how long it's been running. I don't know if it's a long show or a new show, because all these shows are all the same. There's FBI on CBS.
Also,
right?
such an uncreative name for a show. You couldn't have come up with anything else. Just called it FBI.
They just do the
FBI.
3-letter thing. We're
Yeah, it's like-
CBS, this is FBI.
Yeah, it's like that's all we got. Okay, let's talk about it. It's
So
like,
this show
what?
about FBI agents had a really funny promo, I guess, last week that some people on Twitter caught. Shout out to those people who recorded it, because it was like a quick TV promo ad where they're talking about fentanyl, and we've talked about kind of the fear mongering around fentanyl, where there's a scene where they're talking about somebody finds a bag and someone says,
Put the bag on the ground.
Wait, that's fentanyl. If that bag rips, we're all dead.
as if it's
bizarre. It's like,
anthrax,
yeah,
or
you
as
know.
if it's some
It's like an
somebody-
airborne disease.
Like-
It's like, what's that Matt Damon movie that everybody dies from the air? It's
Oh,
like,
yeah, I remember
whatever.
that, yeah, from the trees, I
Yeah,
think,
I don't
yeah.
know. I can't tell the difference between Mark Wahlberg and Matt Damon. One of them. It was in this. Yeah, like that. Like, it's like.
But yeah, this is basically spreading a myth that won't seem to die amongst cops, because it's story after story after story of cops being 10 foot near a bag that once contained fentanyl and somehow fainting, finding a way to faint, and claiming that, fentanyl exposure, or they touched it with their skin or something like that, claiming that this causes It's not true at all. This is a straight up cop lie about drugs. Like, cops always lie about drugs all the time. You can't die just from touching fentanyl, being around fentanyl. In order to overdose from fentanyl, just breathing it in, explode, you'd have to be in, I think someone quoted in a wind tunnel.
Just like with the fentanyl, just like hitting, or like on a
blowing.
roller
Yeah,
coaster
yeah.
where like fentanyl is just hitting
or
your
like
face.
Tony Montana.
Yeah, just like.
Fentanyl is a powerful drug, yes, and it should be taken seriously and treated with respect. This drug, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. That's just not how it works.
And you got to notice the way that they said it, that level of drama.
Yeah.
It made it sound like it was a terrorist attack. And this goes to what cops like to do. They try to make people drug dealing or anything else seem as scary as possible. So what's scarier way than to say, drug dealers are really, evil and scary people, than to say this is something like a terrorist act, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you breathe that, we're all dead. As if
Yeah.
this is like plutonium
Yeah,
or some shit.
yeah,
you know?
like it's like somebody dropped like an airborne virus on you, and it's like a bad dare class. Like they're trying
Yeah,
to
exactly.
it's
Right.
like
Yeah, no, and we see it clearly when it's presented in a Dare video, like how ridiculous stuff. I mean, just a few years ago, Bill Bratton claimed that marijuana causes violence or whatever. Like,
for madness.
That is, I'm sorry, from people being
the cops-
so high, they're chill, that they're
Yeah.
violently like laying on their couch. Maybe violence against couches that don't want to be slept on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what I do when I get high. I mean, come on.
don't trust a word a cop says about any drug. Just that's
Or
the ultimate-
anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
So yeah.
All right. Next one is, I found it hilarious, and I'm in the Christmas mood, as you can see.
Santa hat.
So, and I don't know if you guys will play this video up on the screen for the viewers so they can see. There's a video from I think it's just like LAPD put it out on their Twitter, of Santa riding on his. Let's put it up on here. Santa Claus riding on the side of an LAPD helicopter, going what looks like 90 miles an hour over the city of LA, and it's just fucking hilarious.
But wait, don't say why they're doing it though, because that's the fun. Like I feel like that part is like wild.
So the tweet reads: an annual tradition: Santa catching a ride from the LAPD air support to deliver gifts to children at at the LA Orthopedic Hospital.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
You've got the fucking gimmick of Santa who looks like he's afraid for his life because he falls off. He's literally
gonna die.
done.
This doesn't look safe at all. Yes,
He's
this
not
doesn't
gonna
look
make
safe
it.
at all.
So you've got the gimmick of the holiday season and all this shit on top of a helicopter that can kill you. But Santa's coming to deliver gifts for kids in a hospital. Like literally the most like cringy, like fucking like low level fucking propaganda you could think of.
Yeah. And my favorite thing about this tweet is that people on Twitter are not having it with this Santa.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite reply for this was like, ACAB includes cops. And includes Santa. ACAB includes Santa. Because it does. Because Santa also does not have class consciousness.
Wait, let's read some of these responses. This is not cute. Audrey on Twitter says, this is not cute at all. What a waste of resources. True. Helicopter rides are not inexpensive. You literally are wasting money.
They could have just given the kids healthcare for free. Why don't you use some of that money for universal healthcare?
Exactly. No, I'm about to say, the city budget's like NYPD cop,
Yeah.
helicopter, and Santa's son, or give kids health care. Like,
We're gonna go with the helicopter.
I gotta say,
We'll go with the helicopter. We'll
the
go with
last year or
helicopter.
two, I've seen a lot more like strong analysis of propaganda and what it is from people on Twitter. Maybe that's just me. I'm just seeing that.
Yeah.
But it's like, look at these comments. Like, dropping leaded fuel on sick children for PR. That's a dunk.
That's a good one.
How many gallons of leaded jet fuel did you just burn for this religious propaganda stunt?
Yes.
That's a dunk.
Yes.
Just all down the line, people are eat shit pig. I mean, thanks for wasting tax dollars. I mean, that's the good thing now is people are aware of this shit and are just fucking letting them have it. So that's an L for the LAPD. L for the LAPD.
Yeah.
For
Fuck
that
you,
fucking
LAPD.
stunt.
I mean, if anything, the good news in this is that everybody now just sees how wasteful they are. And
Yeah.
maybe, hopefully, this is counter propaganda.
Yeah.
They thought it was propaganda, but maybe it is counter propaganda.
Yeah. All right. Last piece of propaganda that I kind of caught just from the last couple of weeks is actually related to the Adams kidnapping plan of taking people off the street involuntarily and forcing them into hospitals. The New York Times, and I like to finish with the New York Times sometimes because their propaganda is a little bit more subtle, and their propaganda is generally, the audience is liberal, right? These are not.
You mean liberals do propaganda?
Oh, they're the masses, baby.
Why would they do
They
that?
do it the best. Yeah.
So the Times wrote a plan covering the Adams plan. Wrote a story covering the Adams plan. So right off the bat, the first person quoted is a retired cop, adjunct professor at John Jay, which is like a formula for the New York Times and a lot of other outlets in the city. Ash and I have seen this for years. It's like a formula.
There's a whole lot of these cop-turned-professors at John Jay.
And I went to John Jay for a couple of years. That's a fucking cop school if there's a cop school.
Who will happily talk to any
Not
reporter.
it's like cop grad school. After
Yes.
they finish police academy, they're like, here, this is where we go.
It's a straight-up cop school.
It's like
yeah.
what is like a different level of cop, because you're not just harassing people. You're trying to convince people that they need cops by using like
or FBI agents.
yeah,
or shit like that.
which is like using science and math, which is what you were saying earlier, to make it seem like they're valid. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Please
So
continue.
the author goes on to talk up a little bit about the plan. His main source throughout the entire article, right? Like you could have asked a person who specializes in mental health, a homeless advocate, because homeless people are the most likely targets of this plan. You could have talked to a person on the fucking street.
But that's if you want an honest answer.
Right.
Yeah. If you want lies, why would you do that
go
if
to
you
the
want the
retired
truth?
cop,
Yeah.
that's now a professor at John Jay. You talk to him. He's the main source of analysis throughout the article. And at one point, he also notes who the real victims are potentially because of how tense the situations are between mentally ill people and the police.
Let me guess, it's cops.
Cops.
Yeah.
Because he says most
Yeah.
officers know that they could be
Shocker.
the one hung out to dry, and he's talking about
Then quit.
them, potentially doing something or
something
predictably
bad.
doing something bad, and then them being hung out to dry by politicians or whatever.
Oh, so he's like preempting cops' violence.
Yeah,
He's like,
basically,
actually, they're gonna kill people, and we just want to let people
Yeah.
know that it's not their fault.
We can't beat and
They're
kill
very sensitive.
homeless folks.
And this is
we
what,
might get in trouble for beating
Yeah.
homeless
but this is why it's important to know what the Times did. So the cop is gonna say, of course, that line. But if you reach out for the cop, you're telling your reader that this is what the actual concerns around this plan are.
Absolutely.
So next, the only other source, because it was just in one graph, was another cop, and it was the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Pat Lynch.
Pat Lynch,
the head of the cop unions, who could be, I mean, if you could think of a cop on steroids in terms of what they say and the outrageous shit that they do, it's the cop unions. So he's the other source. Again, no healthcare professional, no mentally ill people or their family members, homeless people or advocates for homeless or anything like that. The second source is the head of the cop union, talking about what their concerns are for officers.
So homeless people are going to be hurt. And they're like, but what about the cops?
What about the cops? What about us?
But what about the cops?
So this is what the Times does. They center the police, right? As the policies already center the police, but then the coverage centers to the police and about what they think and how they like the plan or whether they not they got the plan in time. And they only kind of just on the outskirts mention a little bit about some of the concerns from advocates, and they quote one politician, who's trying to start a mental health program without cops. But they don't quote him; they just mention it. And then the first paragraph actually describes the plan from the Adams administration, almost as if that's exactly like what the plan is going to be. Not that it's going to be a fucked up plan, but the plan according to Adams that lets them take residents involuntarily to hospital when their behavior threatens themselves or others. Well, what about when their behavior didn't do it and the cops are just choosing to do it anyway? I mean, that's not like that. The cops can be trusted to determine when someone's behavior is actually a danger to themselves or others. Yeah. You have to ignore the history of fucking copying. You have
to ignore this whole episode of everything we've just talked about.
History of the NYPD. Cops themselves will tell you, we don't want to do this. The history tells you cops are bad at this. And then you say, well, the cops are going to target people whose behavior threatens. They don't. They'll do it just because someone's just fucking like, not wearing a coat in the winter or some random shit, not threatening at all. I saw a reporter the other day tweeting about some guy who was just like sleeping on the train and they escorted him off.
And like the one thing that I saw that was egregious, the most egregious thing that I saw, somebody was just sleeping. It's not the most egregious, but somebody was just sleeping on a train. They don't have a home. Let them. The train is empty. Okay, either put them in, and a cop walks in, stops the train, makes everybody late, knocks like is hitting with that home. I mean, how is that support? If you were sleeping and somebody banged on the seat while you were sleeping, what's going to be your response? Is it going to be, are you going to like be chill if you're sleeping in a public space? Yeah.
So the Times doesn't even consider this as a possibility. It doesn't consider the possibility of cops lying or abusing their authority or just making shit up.
No.
This, like, you have to ignore the history of the NYPD, but this is what the Times does. It brings on cop sources and then it talks about the plan as if the plan is actually what the plan is supposed to be.
Yeah. And not even like this plan is problematic. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
When is the New York Times going to get its NYPD badge? Because I mean, like,
they have...
I mean, this is like, they are cops. If you're doing this, you are like, I don't care that the New York Times is like, we're an institution, a bastion of good journalism. You're a cop.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the cops, the Times reporters are also putting their own anecdotes in this. In this one, he writes, Mr. Adams' initiative seems to aim the revolving type of behavior on display on Tuesday night when a man who seemed agitated approached two officers in Times Square station. Is this your first time doing this? He said to one officer. The first in a string of loud and unintelligible questions. The officers refrained from engaging the man. So this guy's talking about something that ostensibly he saw on the subway, and he's using his own personal experience of having seen this as an anecdote to include in his story, instead of talking to anybody else who has had a bad experience, which there are many people, or their family members, if they've been unlucky enough to have been murdered by cops. You could have talked to them about what these encounters will deal like, but he then, in addition to quoting the officers, then he puts himself into the story from something that he saw on the subway.
Well, you're being pro cop, and in addition to that, you're just validating all the thoughts that, because I did a video on this, and people are like, well, what are we supposed to do? Everything's unsafe. And I'm like, we should have a society. Why don't we defund the cops and spend that money on the people or who are being harmed? And then we don't have to worry about the cops.
Yeah.
No, but yuck.
And then the piece just ends. The last 5 graphs of the piece are all about training, talking about the history of training, trains that
cop training.
This is the favorite propaganda that liberals love is about training. Oh, they didn't get this training. Oh, they didn't finish this training.
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, the cops are trained. They're just not trained to do the shit that they're telling you they're trained to do. They're trained to arrest protesters. They're trained to smack people up.
Give
They're
homeless
trained to
people shit
kill
sandwiches.
people and ask questions later, right? That's what they're trained to do. So liberals, you know, this has gone far enough.
It's
the,
been
the training shit.
decades and decades and
stop.
decades of this reform being proposed and done over and over and over and
You know,
over
it's
again.
like-
Every time there's an uprising, there's new training. Every time there's a murder,
It's like,
by cops,
they just
they'll
need
do new
better training.
They-
If a
they do
song
the
was
training.
bad, it was bad. You can't do a remix over and over again to try and make it good. It was bad. The
Like
cops
you-
are bad.
like you said.
They came from slave patrols.
These are-
They're always going to be bad.
These are veteran cops doing it who have years and years of training. These are new cops who just got the newest training who are doing horrible things. So like
The training trope
the
gotta
training
go.
is not the problem.
If you're a New York Times reader,
Yeah.
make yourself a New Year's resolution. Stop with the fucking training tropes about cops and how they need more fucking training. This is 2023. You guys got to get over this. And with that said, I think we ran out of time today. I want to thank Ash and Marcela, awesome host. Thank you guys. We'll wrap up the end of this year. You guys got any New Year's resolutions or anything coming up on 2023 you guys want to announce or talk about?
I'm banging on the police harder than ever. On
Me too. I want to yell at the cops more.
That's not new. That's always.
That's my resolution.
My resolution is to yell at the cops more. I feel like I don't do it enough in my daily life.
Word. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining with us. Thanks for tuning in for these podcast episodes for 2022, and we'll be coming out in 2023 stronger than ever. So keep following us. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.